it, but I think the part that makes it really relatable to all your audience is when you talk about how you threw clothes at the TV.
Oh, that's great.
To magically fly the clothes to the kids. And I think that was just like a really human moment. And so I would definitely recommend having that near the beginning of whatever you decide to do. And then I think you kind of touched, so I really, again, echo the idea that giving to benefit others is the meaning of philanthropy is really cool, and I think that's a very new way and unique way of looking at that, so I love that. I think maybe at the end when you're talking, so I think maybe you could start with the story about throwing clothes at the TV and then talk a little bit about your journey and your family's journey with philanthropy, which you started to do a little bit. And then I do think that for me, the part about talking about how at your school you kind of applied your definition of philanthropy to mental health felt a little bit wedged into there, but I do think that you could build kind of the last section to be like just giving people examples of what giving to benefit others looks like. So you could say like giving time to a friend in need, giving support to like a family with mental health issues. Like I think there's a way to make that a little bit more part of your general thread. So yeah, that would be my feedback. That's great.
And maybe to build on that, I too loved like the humor, and I can picture you throwing the clothes, but I wanted more personal stories weaved throughout, and like I felt like I was hearing too much about your mother and your grandmother and what they were doing. I wanted to hear more like where you fit into the picture. And so your grandmother adopted this amazing person that graduated from Harvard, now going to be a doctor. What was your relationship with this person that would have made it feel a little bit more like a person, like I felt more personally connected to you if I had more of that. But I love the whole theme of the philanthropy without wealth. I liked how you looked up the definition and said wealth isn't even a part of the definition, and that's really powerful. I think that brings in a very big audience.
I agree. I was getting caught up in the timeline of like, where were you? And when you're throwing clothes, were you in this place, or were you with your grandma, or were you with your mom? And I just couldn't pinpoint where I was in the timeline, like location-wise and in your lifespan. And so that made it difficult for me to understand or really feel connected to the topic. And as far as the different ways in which you want to deliver this talk, I do think, and I'm sure Tim and Diane have comments on this, keeping in mind that TED Talks have a life after you have them on stage, so it might be difficult to do something that relies on being an audience member, because the part of the importance of giving a strong TED Talk is it's viral, and it's this thing that can have a life online. So I would worry that your audience, if they need to have some sort of card, might not be able to participate in your talk if they're online. So that was my comment about the number one. I think number 2 or 3 could work based on what you said, and I would just want to see them in action. And just because of where we are in the process, I would say maybe next time you come to a workshop, just commit to one and see how it feels and try it out. And if it doesn't work, you have another option.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say same thing about the journey about you. And I know we touched on some of this a little bit in our talks. But yeah, I want to know more about you after throwing the clothes on the TV and everything, because I laughed at that.
That's such a great story.
But yeah, I want to hear more about you and how it meshed in with your mom and your grandma. And like you were saying, the gentleman that graduated from Harvard and everything, how do you connect with that? Because I think when you talk about that from your point of view, it's going to really capture capture the audience. Because one of the things I said is I want the audience to kind of be in your shoes and kind of feel what you're feeling. I want them to get out of what you're doing. I want them to come and talk to you after and say, hey, this is great, I want to know more about this. So you want to kind of give your story a little bit more life to it and then flow into the other. Because I see where it's going, but again, you want to try to bring your life into this so they'll know where it's going. Because then you're going to talk about your mom and your grandma, and it's like bring them up on the stage and do that too. So yeah, try to put more of you in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a good example of where you did do that was when you were talking about mental health and how you said this was the first time I really saw like philanthropy not being about, wealth and money, and you said how impactful that session was, and that was where I saw like a lot of you, and you're like, I finally saw that like maybe it's a shoulder to cry on. So I think maybe if you can think of more moments like that or examples of your life, that would be good.
Yeah, I would suggest that I agree with you that saying, or talking about the definition that doesn't include wealth or money was very clear, but I would then go to I would use more examples of non-monetary ways so that people start to think, because everyone knows how to, phone in a credit card or write a check, but they might not think of ways in which they could give to improve the lives of others, as your grandmother and as your mother have done, and how you want to do, so that they leave the room thinking, I could do that.
Yeah.
I can't afford, my car payment, my student loan, I can't do that, but I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, and in a way, sorry, I should raise my hand. In a way, it's almost more powerful and more, it's more generous. Giving of your time is way more generous than giving it, writing a check, as you said. I love the theme of you gotta keep throwing the clothes at the TV thing. You can take everything out. That is just so fantastic. But there's, if you want to include your grandmother and your mother and maybe what you're gonna pass on to your kids, that sort of mindset of generosity is taught and runs in families, and you learn this from I learned this, I was throwing, clothes at the TV, and I didn't realize when I was that kid that my grandmother was doing this and my mother was doing this, and look at me, I'm doing this, and now I'm spreading.
Yeah.
And then so there's that cycle of generosity, and it's harder. And the other thing is I'm a visual storyteller, so I googled the definition of philanthropy, and it might be really powerful if you just have the definition up there, because it says money.
It does?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
In Oxford?
wouldn't it be cool if you said not always and not the most powerful, and maybe you have that slide and you have the next slide with this big X through it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you launch into your story. I mean, I think that would be a real grabber, but I was surprised because I expected in the definition for there to be more talk about good works, but it was like generally it's about money.
I think other people have said this, but your grandma and your mother sound like amazing people. And I think that a few examples of how you learn from them would make you more interesting.
Yeah.
And draw people in and just more active listener. Because I think it'd be a really touching, they passed down those lessons to you, either through instruction or just by observation. You learned what great women they were, great people they were, and you wanted to emulate them, just as Alex wanted to emulate the strength of her father.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it's kind of because even the working title was like philanthropy from a poor woman's perspective, being that I learned from my mom's perspective, and how I transpose that into what I think philanthropy is today.
Yeah, we want to hear that.
Maybe more I statements. Just
Yes.
I've been trying to rework it. I watched my mom do this. and,
Yes.
Be in the room put yourself in the room with her when you're writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's huge, because then that's when we can relate to you as you're giving the talk and feel more
Exactly.
connected, all as one. But I do think that this is such a great topic and something that isn't discussed, so I think the singularity piece is huge. I was thinking even when you just brought the topic up, in many, workplaces, even the philanthropy department is all about donors and receiving money. So that example thing is huge, because I was just sitting here thinking that is so true. What is it actually? What else can we be doing? The whole audience and the world should be seeing these other examples, because it is kind of scary that, you know, the definition has shifted so much to only being about, you know, fundraiser, donors, money, but there's so many other things regardless of that status that you can give. So kind of that big picture, and then how you in that story, you know, is working to make this change and make this, you know, topic so important. So yeah, I think
And,
it's a good choice.
and I would just, you know, I would hit on the fact that you were taught that it's harder to, you know, to do the work, to start a school, than it is to write a check. You know, and I think maybe poor people, people don't give enough credit to that kind of, you know, giving.
I think
You know, Bill and Melinda Gates, right? You know, like, that's what you hear. That's easier than what your family did.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Brian, did you have something?
Yeah, I agree with everyone else in that you have an incredible personality and when you're up on stage, it's just, it comes through so well that the audience immediately falls in love with you. I just want to hear as much as I can from you and your perspective. Like you talked about, at the end of the day, you're trying to sell this new definition of philanthropy. I want to hear about how it makes you feel, and, like through your eyes, what makes you feel so good, so that I can try to emulate you going about my daily life.
Exactly.
That's a great title,
What?
A New Definition of Philanthropy.
True.
I have a request, and I love where you've gone with this, and I love that Sarah mentioned it, and I love that you're exploring conceptually ways to frame this. You're awesome, and just trying to play with these ideas openly. I love that. You're openly creating and openly exploring. But my request of you is this. If I put on my anthropologist hat, your grandmother's wisdom didn't come from nowhere, and wisdom does not track wealth. Wisdom transcends wealth. So I wonder in Sierra Leonean culture, where are there examples of, even in, that you might give that have influenced your parents and your grandparents about taking care of those that are less fortunate in the village.
Okay.
Because I think that we think that we've invented philanthropy in the Western world. And there are ancient forms of philanthropy that deserve to be